Do you truly understand how Western powers continue to dominate and exploit Africa? Their most powerful weapon is not military force or multinational corporations, but financial control. While armies, foreign military bases, corrupt leaders, and exploitative agreements play a role, the real tool of oppression has always been economic manipulation. Even when African nations gained political independence and replaced colonial-era puppet leaders, the West found ways to maintain its grip. By controlling a country's financial system, they could apply pressure on any leader who dared to prioritize national interests over foreign ones. If a government resisted, its assets could be frozen, financial aid withdrawn, or international trade restricted, forcing it back into submission. Institutions like SWIFT, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have been key instruments in enforcing this economic stranglehold. These entities, largely controlled by Western powers, determine which nations have access to global financial systems and under what conditions. But now, things are beginning to change. Recognizing this long-standing financial servitude, IBRAHIM Traoré has taken bold action. He has ordered the shutdown of these foreign-controlled institutions in Burkina Faso and introduced an alternative financial system called Azerika. This decision marks a historic turning point, one that could redefine Africa's economic future. For centuries, Africa has been shackled by a system of economic enslavement, skillfully designed through debt, financial exploitation, and policies that ensure Western dominance. While military interventions, coups, and puppet governments have played their part, the real masters have always been financial institutions, not soldiers. Africa's rulers have not been its own leaders, but the bankers who dictate the terms of its economy. The World Bank, IMF, and SWIFT have positioned themselves as Africa's financial gatekeepers, ensuring that no nation can achieve true sovereignty without their approval. These organizations were never created to help Africa develop. Rather, they were designed to trap nations in a cycle of debt, dependency, and submission. IBRAHIM Traoré is now disrupting this system, challenging the financial structures that have kept Africa dependent for generations. To fully appreciate the significance of his actions, it is crucial to understand how this economic stranglehold was carefully engineered during the colonial era and continues to shape Africa's reality today. For decades, whenever African countries needed funding for infrastructure, healthcare, or education, they were forced to turn to the World Bank and IMF. But these loans always came with conditions that prioritized foreign interests over national well-being. They were never about genuine development, but about maintaining control. The conditions imposed by these financial institutions have been devastating. One of the most damaging requirements is austerity measures, which force African governments to slash public spending before they can access any funds. The consequences are severe. Roads and public transportation systems deteriorate, hospitals remain underfunded, schools close, and millions of people lose access to basic social services. While Western financial institutions claim these measures are necessary for economic stability, in reality, they cripple economies and increase dependency on foreign aid. Another common demand by the IMF and World Bank is the privatization of national industries. Governments are pressured to sell off state-owned enterprises such as energy companies, transportation networks, and even water supply systems to foreign investors. Once privatized, these vital sectors fall under the control of profit-driven corporations that prioritize their own financial gains over national development. This process ensures that Africa's wealth remains in the hands of foreign elites, while its people continue to struggle. African leaders are often pressured into selling off state-owned businesses to private investors, who almost always happen to be large multinational corporations. This means that some of Africa's most valuable resources, Its industries, agriculture, oil, and gold, end up in the hands of foreign corporations. These corporations extract immense wealth from the continent, sending profits to North America and Europe, while leaving the local population in poverty. Even though Africa is rich in natural resources, its people continue to struggle because of economic policies designed to benefit outsiders. The cost of basic necessities like food, fuel, and transportation keeps rising, not because of natural market forces, but because African governments are forced to remove subsidies under the terms of many financial aid agreements. Meanwhile, Western nations heavily subsidize their own industries and provide financial support to their citizens, creating an unfair playing field that keeps Africa at a disadvantage. One of the most destructive aspects of these financial agreements is the never-ending cycle of debt. Loans given to African nations are not designed to be paid off. They are designed to keep these countries in perpetual debt repayment. By the time an African nation manages to repay the principal amount it initially borrowed, the accumulated interest forces it to take out new loans just to stay afloat. This cycle ensures that Africa remains economically dependent, continuously making interest payments without ever achieving financial freedom. To put things into perspective, African countries currently spend over $163 billion annually on debt repayments, more than they invest in healthcare and education combined. The institutions that claim to be helping Africa are, in reality, draining its wealth and keeping it in poverty. But debt is just one piece of the puzzle. The West also dominates Africa's international trade through SWIFT, the global financial system that connects banks worldwide. Since the US and Europe control SWIFT, they can exclude any African nation from the global banking system if it refuses to comply with Western financial demands. This economic stranglehold makes it nearly impossible for countries to function independently. With the IMF, World Bank, and SWIFT, the West has the power to cripple any African economy without ever sending in soldiers. All it takes is a few economic sanctions, the freezing of financial assets, or the withdrawal of aid, and a nation can be brought to its knees. The strategy is simple: make the consequences of resistance so unbearable that no African leader dares to challenge Western financial institutions. Throughout history, Africa's boldest and most revolutionary leaders have been economically sabotaged for standing up to foreign exploitation. This pattern has been repeated time and time again, proving that economic warfare, not military invasion, is the most powerful weapon used to control Africa. Muammar Gaddafi's Libya posed a challenge to Western financial hegemony. In addition to being a revolutionary leader, Gaddafi had a vision for the economy. African countries might have conducted trade with one another without depending on the US dollar or the French-controlled CFA franc, if he had implemented his proposal to create an African currency backed by gold. Western financial dominance over Africa would have been overthrown by this action, so he needed to be looked after. More than $30 billion in Libyan assets were frozen by US and European banks before to NATO's military action in 2011. This was a calculated plan to destroy Libya's economy before Western soldiers arrived, not a diplomatic gesture. Libya's economy had collapsed, its banking system was in shambles, and its resources had once again become vulnerable to international exploitation by the time Gaddafi was slain. Any African leader who tries to oppose Western financial hegemony would be destroyed, according to the plain message. Similar economic warfare is currently being faced by IBRAHIM Traore's Burkina Faso. Traore has methodically undermined French military and economic clout since assuming office in 2022. He refused to let Western firms govern national policy, drove out French troops, and seized control of Burkina Faso's gold mines. However, History has demonstrated that such audacious disobedience is not unpunished. In response, France pushed for financial restrictions against Burkina Faso and quickly withdrew all economic support. It was anticipated that the nation would fall apart in the absence of Western aid, financing, or trade advantages, compelling Traoré to cede. Traoré, however, used a different strategy from previous presidents who were coerced into economic obedience. He created a whole new financial system that would protect Burkina Faso against financial assaults from the West. IBRAHIM Traoré established Faso Azareka, a national digital financial platform, in anticipation of the financial backlash from the West. The site's goal is to remove Burkina Faso's reliance on banking networks under Western control. Azareka was formally introduced by Burkina Faso on January 30, 2025, ushering in a new era in finance. This was not another reform of the economy. It was an announcement of freedom from the financial systems that have held Africa in slavery for many years. Azareka is not merely a way to make payments online. It is a comprehensive financial system created to provide Burkina Faso complete authority over its business dealings. In the past, a large portion of Burkina Faso's financial transactions had to pass via international banking networks, which meant that the West could instantly freeze the nation's assets or impose trade restrictions. Burkina Faso may now handle public funds, collect taxes on its own, and interact internationally without hindrance thanks to Azareka. The capacity of Azareka to circumvent SWIFT, the international financial messaging system dominated by Western nations, is among its most innovative features. Russia, Iran, and Venezuela are just a few of the countries that have exploited the SWIFT system as a weapon against the United States and Europe. Burkina Faso is preventing international institutions from holding its money and economic activities hostage by developing an alternative banking platform. Azareka is more than just an alternative financial system, it is a revolutionary step toward economic sovereignty and transparency. Unlike traditional banking structures, where corruption thrives in secrecy, Azareka ensures that every transaction is digitally recorded, making it nearly impossible for public officials to embezzle funds. This level of financial accountability directly challenges the dishonest practices that have crippled many African nations for decades. The introduction of Azareka has sent shockwaves through the Western financial establishment. This is because Burkina Faso is not acting in isolation. Their bold move has the potential to set a precedent for the entire African continent. If Burkina Faso successfully breaks away from Western-controlled financial institutions, other nations will be inspired to follow suit. Countries like Mali, Niger, Guinea, and Chad, which have also undergone significant political shifts, are closely monitoring this development. If they too establish independent financial systems, they could form a powerful regional economic bloc free from Western control. For the United States and France, this would be a devastating blow. Their ability to manipulate and dictate economic policies in West Africa would be completely dismantled. But the implications of Azareka stretch far beyond Africa. Global superpowers like China and Russia have long advocated for alternatives to Western financial dominance. Russia has already developed BRICS Pay, a swift alternative that allows member nations to trade internationally without relying on the US dollar. Meanwhile, China's Belt and Road Initiative aims to build a financial network independent of Western institutions. If Burkina Faso aligns itself with these emerging financial systems, it could become part of a worldwide movement to break free from Western economic hegemony. IBRAHIM Traoré has taken one of the boldest financial steps in modern African history. By rejecting the IMF, the World Bank, and SWIFT, he has openly defied the financial institutions that have kept Africa in a cycle of dependency. However, history has repeatedly shown that African leaders who challenge Western financial control often face severe consequences. Yet, despite the risks, Burkina Faso has taken the crucial first step toward true financial independence. The rest of Africa now stands at a crossroads. Will nations continue to be financially shackled by neo-colonial institutions, or will they reclaim control over their economies? What do you think? Now that Traoré has ended decades of Western financial dominance, how do you think the US and France will respond? Should dismantling neo-colonial banking institutions be the first step toward genuine independence for African nations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you want to see more discussions on Africa's path to economic liberation, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.